You were told that your degree and your IQ were your tickets to the top. I am here to tell you that you have been lied to for your entire life. What if your high IQ is actually a golden cage designed to keep you trapped? Most people treat intelligence as a decoration, something to display on a wall or resume. But in the real world, intelligence is not a badge. It is a lethal, hidden weapon. You see, the most educated people often have the least control over their own lives. Lean in closer, because the truth about power is much darker than they ever taught. Right now, you might be a sleeper, drifting through a system you do not understand. You watch others climb the ladder while you remain stagnant, wondering what you are missing. Is it talent, or is there a hidden hierarchy governing every move you make? Machiavelli understood that power is not granted. It is taken by those who see the board. Beyond the bright lights of society lies the void, where true masters craft their reality. Forget the test scores. True intelligence is defined by only two things: leverage and survival. If you cannot survive the storm or leverage your surroundings, your degrees are worth nothing. Agency is the only currency that matters when the world begins to crumble around you. From the calculator to the operator, every level of mind serves a specific cold purpose. Some are content to be mimics, while others aspire to become the ultimate puppeteer. But even above the puppeteer stands the architect, the silent force who designs the game. You are currently a pawn in a game you did not even know was being played. Ask yourself why the smartest person in the room is rarely the one in charge. True intelligence is a tool for survival, used to navigate the treacherous waters of human nature. It is the ability to exert leverage when everyone else is simply following the rules. If IQ is not the metric for success, what is the secret to true dominance? Prepare to descend into the 7 levels of mind and claim your place in the hierarchy. The metrics are changing, and the game you thought you knew has shifted entirely. There is a hidden ladder of cognitive evolution's 7 stages separating the cattle from the architects. Where do you think you sit on this ladder of power and psychological mastery? Are you truly climbing toward the top, or are you just treading water in place? This hierarchy consists of 7 distinct levels of intelligence and stages of awakening. Each rung on this ladder requires burning a piece of your old, limited self. At the very base lies the sleeper, drifting through life without ever questioning reality. Above them is the mimic, simply copying the movements and thoughts of those around them. Then comes the calculator, analyzing every situation to find the most efficient path forward. The operator begins to exert control, using their agency to influence the world directly. Higher still sits the puppeteer, pulling strings from the shadows while remaining completely unseen. The architect builds the systems that others merely inhabit, shaping the very structure of society. Beyond these roles lies the void, a space where only the most enlightened minds survive. This path isn't for the weak. It demands a ruthless commitment to your own evolution. You must decide if you possess the Machiavellian drive to ascend these dangerous heights. Leverage is the only currency that matters as you navigate these 7 distinct stages. Most will live their entire lives without ever realizing this hierarchy even exists. They remain blind to the forces that govern their behavior and dictate their ultimate fate. But you are here because you seek the power that comes with true cognitive agency. Let's start at the bottom, where most will stay forever in a state of sleep. Level 1 is the most crowded room in the world, filled with those who never truly wake up. 90% of the people you see today are not actually awake. They are simply called sleepers. This state represents the most common cognitive level, where individuals lack true agency over their own lives. Imagine a leaf caught in a violent storm, convinced it is choosing exactly which way to fly. At this level, your intelligence is purely reactive, responding only to the immediate pressures of your environment. You do not act upon the world. Instead, the world acts upon you through an external locus. Every emotional spike and every sudden decision is a reflex triggered by forces far outside your control. Ask yourself truthfully, do you actually own your reactions, or do they completely own you instead? The sleeper lives in a state of constant response, never pausing to question the source of their impulses. This vast majority of the population exists within a psychological framework where they have no real power. Approximately 90% of humanity functions on this first level of intelligence, drifting through their daily lives. They follow scripts written by others, believing these borrowed thoughts are actually their own unique perspectives. If your surrounding environment suddenly changes, does your entire internal world break along with it? The absence of agency means you are a passenger in a vehicle you believe you are driving. It is the most crowded level because it requires the least amount of effort to maintain. Within this reactive state, your external locus of control dictates every major turn in your life story. You are moved by economic shifts, social trends, and the opinions of people you don't even like. This is the fundamental definition of the sleeper, a consciousness that only echoes the world around it. They are the mimics of reality, mirroring the vibrations of the masses without finding their own frequency. Most people will spend their entire lives here, never realizing they are trapped in a reactive loop. Their sense of self is a fragile construction built entirely upon the expectations of the external world. Without agency, you are merely a biological machine processing data and outputting predictable, pre-programmed responses. This crowded level is where the illusion of choice masks a total lack of genuine personal power. The sleeper is the foundation of the hierarchy, providing the energy for systems they cannot even see. They react to fear, they react to hunger, and they react to the commands of their masters. But as we move higher, do not mistake their material success for a sign of actual consciousness. This is the subtle illusion that keeps the machinery of our world running smoothly every day. The man performing your heart surgery or filing your taxes might be a level 1 sleeper. High IQ is no shield against the sleeper state. It often just masks a lack of agency. You see them every day as respected doctors, powerful lawyers, or highly successful accountants. These professionals navigate complex systems with ease, while their inner consciousness remains completely undisturbed. Imagine a high-end computer running borrowed software, processing data without ever understanding the purpose. Can you recite the works of Shakespeare and still remain a hollow vessel for others' thoughts? A sleeper can memorize every sonnet perfectly while never experiencing the depth of the human condition. They might master the intricacies of coding in Python without ever questioning the source of their instructions. Their brilliance is merely technical, a high-speed engine directed by a pilot who isn't actually there. This phenomenon is not new, for history's greatest observers saw the sleeper's true nature clearly. Machiavelli described a class of men who are simple and subject only to their present necessities. They react to the world in front of them, never looking beyond the immediate demands of their roles. They have become functionally reactive vessels, carrying the weight of ideas they did not produce. We were told that a high IQ was the ultimate metric of a truly evolved mind. But intelligence without agency is just a more efficient way to drift toward the void. Ask yourself if your specialized skills are proof of your awakening or just your programming. Like a mimic, they copy the movements of the powerful without ever holding the power themselves. They remain trapped in the immediate, unable to see how the puppeteer moves the pieces. They are simple, as Machiavelli noted, subject only to what is right in front of them. You might assume your high IQ exempts you from being a sleeper, but the reality is far darker. Even the most brilliant minds often remain trapped within level 1, polishing the chains of their own prison. We call this the competent sleeper, an individual who executes tasks with precision but possesses zero actual agency. You are likely processing information at lightning speed while remaining a passenger in your own life's journey. This is where high intelligence becomes a trap, confusing efficient processing with the power of true command. At this level, your mind is merely a high-performance engine idling in a garage you do not own. Every action you take is purely reactive, responding to external stimuli rather than generating your own unique path. You master the rules of the game perfectly without ever realizing that you didn't write a single one. This external locus of control defines the sleeper, no matter how complex their internal calculations might actually be. Machiavelli warned of those who are simple, focusing only on what is placed directly in front of them. You might be the most efficient worker in the room while remaining entirely invisible to the true architects. The machinery of the world depends on your high IQ compliance to keep the gears turning without any friction. If you are so smart, why do you feel like a spectator in the grand theater of power? The truth is that intelligence without agency is just a more sophisticated form of biological automation for others. You are a calculator capable of complex equations but unable to decide which numbers are worth solving. You must recognize that being a high-functioning mimic is not the same as being a master of reality. Without agency, you are merely an operator of a machine you did not build for a puppeteer you then never met. You are operating in a void of purpose, where your brilliance serves only to fill someone else's space. The itch you feel is the realization that your potential is being harvested by forces you cannot see. Breaking free requires more than just raw brain power. It demands a shift in where your authority truly lies. Most geniuses die as level 1 sleepers because they never learn to look past the immediate horizon. They confuse the speed of their thoughts with the direction of their lives, drifting until the very end. Until you seize your own agency, your brilliant mind remains a tool for those who actually wield power. Moving beyond this level requires you to stop reacting and start architecting the world around your own will. The competent sleeper is the most dangerous trap because it feels so much like success while staying stagnant. If level 1 is sleep, level 2 is a dream about being awake. Level 2 isn't about thinking. It is purely about looking like a thinker to others. Welcome to the realm of the mimic, often referred to by the biting term, midwit. At this stage, your intelligence ceases to be a tool and becomes a carefully crafted aesthetic. Is your knowledge a sharp blade for carving reality, or just a designer watch you can't read? The mimic treats their intellect like currency, spending it to buy respect from those around them. Every complex word and borrowed opinion is a transaction designed to secure high social status. You aren't seeking truth here. You are desperately hunting for validation in the eyes of others. Why do you feel this burning need for them to believe you are truly brilliant? For the midwit, intelligence is a performance staged on the fragile boards of social expectation. Machiavelli famously warned of those who mistake the mere appearance of virtue for the virtue itself. You have mastered the mask of the intellectual while the actual substance remains entirely hollow. This stage is the primary home of the Dunning-Kruger effect in its most dangerous form. You know just enough to feel superior, but not enough to realize how little you understand. Many followers of self-improvement find themselves hopelessly stuck in this hall of intellectual mirrors. It feels like progress because you can quote the greats without ever embodying their wisdom. Unlike the sleeper, you have the vocabulary of awakening without the agency to actually move. The mimic wears high-level concepts like fashion statements, changing them to fit the current trend. You are playing a game of shadows, convincing the world of a depth you don't possess. Is your intelligence a functional tool or simply a badge of membership in the elite? The tragedy of the midwit is that they eventually mistake the mask for the face. Beyond this hollow performance lies the first true step toward power if you drop the act. You believe you have escaped the sleeper, but the mimic is a far more treacherous trap. This level is the most dangerous plateau because it feels exactly like the finish line. At level 2, your intelligence is no longer a tool. It becomes a carefully curated performance. You wear knowledge like a designer's suit, hoping the world mistakes the fabric for the man. Here, the aesthetic of brilliance replaces the hard, grinding work of actually being brilliant. You master the jargon and the gestures, creating a convincing silhouette of a true operator. Every book on your shelf is a prop designed to signal a status you haven't earned. Your intelligence has become an ornament, a shiny trinket meant to distract from your lack of agency. Centuries ago, Machiavelli warned about those who mistake the appearance of virtue for virtue itself. He knew that looking the part is often easier than actually possessing the power you project. By focusing on the mask, you lose the ability to see the face beneath the surface. The mimic forgets that power without substance is a house of cards waiting for a breeze. This psychological blind spot is where the Dunning-Kruger effect takes its most permanent hold. You know just enough to feel superior, but not enough to realize how little you know. The mimic is trapped in a loop, convinced they are the smartest person in every room. True growth stops the moment you decide that looking like a genius is enough for you. While you play the part, your agency withers away like a muscle that is never used. You are merely reacting to what you think an intelligent person should do in this moment. You remain a passenger in your own life, even if you are holding a fake steering wheel. The void waits for those who realize their entire identity is based on a hollow echo. To reach the rank of calculator, you must first admit that your current performance is failing. If you stay here, you are simply a sleeper who has learned to talk in their sleep. The most dangerous lie is the one you tell yourself to avoid the cold, hard truth. Only by shattering the mirror of the mimic can you begin to build something real. To leave the mimics behind and enter the next realm, you must become transactional and cold. Now we finally cross the threshold into true agency and meet the creature known as the fox. This is level 3 of intelligence, often referred to as the calculator or the strategic fox. Unlike the sleepers or the mimics, the fox represents the first level of true agency and power. The fox does not perform for an audience or sleep through the repetitive cycles of the system. Instead, he observes the machinery of the world with a sharp, calculating, and predatory focus. This level of intelligence is defined by a transactional mindset that views every interaction as a move. To the fox, a relationship is not an emotional bond, but a series of calculated strategic maneuvers. Can you look at a simple conversation and see only the hidden moves and potential exits? The fox lives in a world of systems, maneuvering through the gears with a cold, unwavering precision. This intelligence is cold, stripping away the warmth of the mimic to find the raw tactical advantage. As Machiavelli once wrote, the lion cannot protect himself from the hidden traps set by others. The fox, however, knows every hole in the fence and every snare hidden in the high grass. He is the calculator who counts the cost of every word before it even leaves his mouth. While others are distracted by emotions, the fox is busy measuring the distance to the next exit. Is your world a series of inescapable traps or a cleverly designed sequence of strategic exits? The fox survives by being faster and smarter than the systems designed to keep the sleepers down. As a strategic operator, he maneuvers within the architecture of power to serve his own transactional ends. Yet, this mastery of the system comes with a significant and dangerous price for the calculator. Machiavelli also warned that while the fox avoids traps, he cannot defend himself against the wolves. Even a fox who knows every trick has a fundamental weakness that a true lion does not. The fox is not yet a puppeteer or an architect, but he has escaped the mimic's mirror. To advance beyond the calculator, one must realize that maneuvering within a system is still a cage. But for now, observe the fox as he navigates the void with cold and calculating strategic intent. There is a level where strategy meets raw will, transcending the cold logic of the calculating fox. The fox calculates the wind, but the lion simply decides where that wind is going to blow. Welcome to Level 4 of Intelligence, the realm of the operator, famously known as the lion. While the calculator plays the game perfectly, the operator chooses to rewrite the very rules themselves. You are no longer just navigating the void. You are starting to fill it with your presence. This transition marks the moment where mere calculation is eclipsed by the sheer force of personality. At this level, intelligence becomes generative, moving beyond response and into the realm of true creation. The lion does not wait for opportunities to arise. He commands them into existence through absolute agency. Consider the wisdom of Machiavelli, who understood that power is not just logic but human perception. He famously claimed it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. This is the essence of the operator, using will to bend the reality of everyone around them. The mimic seeks approval, but the lion demands respect through the weight of his own convictions. Would you rather be loved for your compliance or feared for your undeniable strength of purpose? For the operator, the world is not a puzzle to solve, but a canvas to be mastered. Every action taken at Level 4 is an expression of will that ripples through the social fabric. You are moving past the reactive patterns of the sleeper and the performative traps of the mimic. True agency means you are the primary cause of the effects you see in your life. The fox remains a prisoner of the environment, but the lion shapes the environment to his advantage. This is where intelligence stops being a tool for survival and starts becoming a weapon of conquest. By adding the element of will, the operator transcends the limitations of pure, cold calculation. Your personality becomes a gravity well, pulling others into the orbit of your specific vision. Is your will strong enough to bend the reality of others until they see what you see? The lion stands atop the hierarchy of action, fueled by a generative power that changes the world. Yet, even the loudest roar is just a sound unless it is backed by something even deeper. Real power is silent, and as we climb higher, the noise of the lion begins to fade. You've seen the calculated fox and the roaring lion, but neither can survive the climb alone. To understand the next step, we must look at the brutal wisdom of Machiavelli himself. He observed that the mighty lion is often helpless when faced with a hidden, clever trap. Even with absolute power, the lion lacks the sharp eyes needed to spot a spider's web. Conversely, the cunning fox can outsmart a trap, but he is defenseless against a pack of wolves. The fox is a master of the void, yet he lacks the raw strength to hold his ground. You are likely trapped in one of these archetypes, clinging to a single path of survival. If you are a calculator, your cleverness might save you today, but leave you vulnerable tomorrow. If you are an operator, your brute force will eventually lead you straight into a snare. True agency requires you to bridge the gap between these two warring states of being. You must learn when to use the fox's strategy and when to unleash the lion's will. This balance is the secret that moves a puppeteer toward the level of an architect. Machiavelli famously argued that it is better to be feared than loved if forced to choose. The lion thrives on that fear, using it as a shield against those who would betray him. Yet fear, without the fox's subtlety, creates a target that the world will eventually strike down. You must weave the fear of the lion with the invisible threads of the fox as complex web. A sleeper follows the rules, but a true master knows how to rewrite them entirely. Don't become a mimic of power. Instead, embody the dual nature of these two predators. The path forward demands you sacrifice the comfort of being just one thing. By merging strategy and strength, you prepare your mind for the ultimate stage of evolution. Beyond the roar of the lion lies a realm where power becomes silent and invisible. The most powerful people in the room are often the ones you never notice. Welcome to Level 5 of Intelligence, a position known simply as the Puppeteer. While the lion commands through strength, the Puppeteer masters the art of the shadow. The lion is seen by all, but the Puppeteer is experienced by everyone involved. Instead of using direct control, this level relies entirely on the use of soft power. They influence outcomes by shaping the environment in which others make their daily choices. Think of a director who never steps on stage but controls every single movement. They understand that true agency is often an illusion maintained by those in control. Machiavelli once wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be at first glance. He followed this by noting that few ever truly experience what you really are. The puppeteer wears a mask of normalcy while weaving a complex web of influence. They don't need to bark orders when they can whisper suggestions into the right ears. Every narrative you consume might be a thread being pulled by an invisible hand. By mastering psychology, they guide the fox and the lion without them ever knowing. Their strength lies in the shadows, where the light of public scrutiny never reaches. If the world is a stage, the puppeteer is the one writing the entire script. They understand that perception is the only reality that matters in the game of power. While others fight for the spotlight, the puppeteer finds total freedom in the darkness. This shift from force to influence marks a profound evolution in your strategic mind. You are no longer just a player on the board. You are the board itself. They do not build the physical world, but they pull the strings of those who do. Behind every great leader stands a puppeteer ensuring the narrative stays on its course. To reach this level, you must value the result more than the credit you receive. True power is quiet, patient, and operates far beyond the reach of the average sleeper. We are moving beyond individual people now, leaving the puppets and their strings behind. We are entering the realm of systems, where the very structure of our reality is forged. 1 in 10 million. That is the staggering rarity of the mind known as the architect. Level 6 represents a form of intelligence that most humans will never even perceive, let alone attain. While the puppeteer manipulates the actors, the architect is busy building the entire theater from scratch. They do not waste energy controlling people when they can simply design the environments they inhabit. This is the rare intelligence that constructs the algorithms governing your digital and physical world. Imagine a mind that views the world not as a game, but as a complex machine. To the architect, every human action is merely a predictable output of a well-designed system. They master the art of looking past the immediate to see the ripples of second-order consequences. Their vision extends even further, calculating the deep impact of third-order shifts across the global landscape. At this height, they anticipate fourth-order consequences that would leave a common sleeper completely baffled. Can you see the invisible architecture that dictates how you think, work, and even love? They are the programmers of the simulation, writing the code that others are forced to execute. Where the fox calculates and the lion roars, the architect simply adjusts the fundamental settings. This level of agency requires staring into the void and deciding exactly how to fill it. They move past Machiavelli's tactical schemes, preferring the cold, permanent logic of structural engineering. A single choice made by an architect can echo through the lives of millions for centuries. They do not seek power within the system. They are the ones who define the system itself. Most people are content-being players, never realizing the board was designed to make them lose. Are you living in a system, or are you the one who actually designed it? To understand the architect is to realize that the walls of your reality are purely intentional. They operate with a silent precision that makes the puppeteer's strings look like clumsy toys. This is the peak of intellectual power, where ideas become the very gravity of our existence. They are the ones who define the gravity of our reality, pulling every soul into orbit. The final level isn't about control at all. It is about reaching a state of absolute sovereignty. What happens when the architect leaves the building and enters the ultimate silent stillness of the void? Beyond the structures of the architect lies the seventh level of intelligence, known simply as the void. At this peak, you achieve total internal sovereignty, becoming untouched by the chaotic storms of the world. This stage demands a complete psychological detachment, where your ego no longer dictates your every move. The void mirrors the concept of the sage in Stoicism, standing firm while everything else crumbles. It is much like the Tao in Eastern philosophy, moving effortlessly with the natural current of reality. Can you remain completely detached from the results while wielding the most profound power imaginable? To understand this mastery, we must revisit the timeless wisdom of the great strategist Machiavelli. Machiavelli stated that half of our lives are governed by fortuna and the other half by our will. Most people are victims of fortuna, tossed around by the unpredictable tides of luck and circumstance. Even the architect relies on their agency to shape the world, fighting against the currents of fate. But for those in the void, the distinction between fate and will begins to dissolve entirely. Imagine being the eye of a hurricane, maintaining absolute stillness while the world spins in fury. This isn't a state of cold apathy, but a profound connection to the underlying flow of existence. You no longer force your agency upon the world. Instead, the world moves in response to you. You cease to be a player on the board and finally become the very current of reality. While the puppeteer pulls strings, the inhabitant of the void simply exists as the stage itself. Total internal sovereignty means that no external event can ever disturb the peace within your mind. Are you the player trapped in the game, or are you the current that carries the game? You have evolved past the sleeper and the mimic, leaving behind the cold math of the calculator. The operator's moves and the puppeteer's secrets are now just echoes in your distant memory. Half fortuna, half will, but the enlightened sage sees both forces as a single, unified one. Stop and look at where you are standing right now on this hidden ladder of power. You have glimpsed the puppeteer and the architect, yet you feel strangely anchored to the floor. Why can't you climb higher while others seem to ascend with such effortless, cold precision? The harsh truth is that most of you are trapped in a perpetual loop of mediocrity. You find yourself oscillating endlessly between the performance of the mimic and the greed of the fox. One day you are playing a role, and the next you are merely calculating your small gains. This constant back-and-forth movement creates the illusion of progress while you actually remain perfectly still. Like a bird that refuses to fly, you stay inside the cage because the bars feel safe. You fear the open sky of the operator because you were programmed to fear your own agency. To reach the level of the lion or the puppeteer, something fundamental within you must break. Your current moral programming is not a shield, but a heavy anchor dragging you back down. Is your perceived goodness actual virtue, or is it simply a lack of courage to act? The climb toward the void requires more than just intelligence. It demands a radical internal fracture. You must be willing to shatter the rules that the sleepers and mimics use to survive. This is where we look toward the wisdom of Machiavelli to understand true power and control. He spoke of a concept called virtu, which is far removed from common modern morality. Virtu represents a ruthless and flexible prowess that allows a leader to adapt to any storm. It is the ability to be both the lion and the fox whenever the situation demands. Without this internal flexibility, you will always be a puppet dancing on someone else's invisible strings. The architect does not follow the path. The architect creates the path through sheer force of will. Are you truly willing to fracture your outdated programming to survive this new, brutal world? Most people will choose the comfort of the loop over the cold reality of absolute sovereignty. They would rather stay a high IQ sleeper than face the terrifying freedom of the sage. But you are here because you sense that the old metrics of success are failing you. Remember this clearly: your current morality is the lock, and virtue is the only key. You've spent your life following a script, yet the door to true power remains firmly locked. Most people spend their entire lives oscillating between the performance of the mimic and the fox. This midwit plateau is a cycle where you calculate gains but remain trapped by social expectations. To break through this barrier, you must understand a concept buried in the works of Machiavelli. He called it virtu, a term that describes a ruthless and incredibly flexible form of prowess. Unlike modern morality, virtu demands that you prioritize your own agency over common social rules. You are currently a sleeper in a world designed to keep you safe and stagnant. While the mimic seeks approval, the one who masters virtu seeks only the most effective outcome. Transitioning from a calculator to an operator requires shedding the guilt of breaking conventional norms. You must view the world not as a moral test, but as a series of tactical opportunities. The fox calculates within the system, but the operator uses virtu to rewrite the system entirely. This shift in perspective is the only way to climb toward the rank of puppeteer. Most people fail because they are too afraid to abandon the comfort of being a mimic. They oscillate between levels 2 and 3, never grasping the true nature of sovereign power. Agency is not something given to you. It is something you seize through sheer personal prowess. Machiavelli understood that the great architect of history does not wait for permission to build. You must replace your rigid social morality with a fluid strategy that serves your highest goals. This is not about being evil, but about becoming the most effective version of yourself. The midwit plateau is comfortable, but it is also a graveyard for those without true ambition. By embracing virtu, you finally turn the key that releases you from the common loop. Leave the sleeper and the mimic behind as you begin your ascent toward the void. Your journey requires you to become more than a calculator in someone else's grand design. It is time to wield your prowess and claim the agency that has always been yours. True intelligence isn't about winning the game. It is about being entirely free from it. When you understand these hidden levels, the entire game finally loses its power over you. Real intelligence is actually defined by your ultimate leverage and your absolute ability to survive. Survival is no longer a struggle for scraps once you learn to wield leverage with precision. You have moved past the sleeper, leaving behind the crowded room of the blissfully unaware. The mimic no longer traps you in a hollow performance of someone else's scripted life. You have outgrown the cold transactional logic of the calculator and the roar of the operator. Even the puppeteer and the architect are just roles played within a system you now recognize. True agency means realizing the walls of the maze were always just painted on the floor. You no longer seek to control the strings because you have finally stepped off the stage. Following the wisdom of Machiavelli allows you to see through the scripts that others blindly follow. Every level you climbed was a necessary step toward reaching the absolute sovereignty of the void. Ask yourself now, what is this ultimate freedom worth to you in a world of puppets? Will you remain a vessel for another's ambition? Or will you finally become the architect? You are no longer a piece on the board, but the hand that moves with purpose. True agency is the power to define your own path without needing permission from the world. This realization is the final key to unlocking a life of genuine mastery and silent power. The latter has served its purpose, and now you stand where very few ever dare. The game is over because you have finally stopped playing by everyone else's rules. Now the choice is yours. You can stay asleep or start building your own reality. You have finally seen the hidden map of power, but now you need the actual tools. Reading the menu is never the same as eating the meal that will truly sustain you. The architect level remains a distant dream for those who refuse to act right this moment. Statistics show that only 1 in 10 million people ever reach this pinnacle of human intelligence. Will you take the key provided or keep walking the empty halls of the lower levels? Most remain trapped as a sleeper or a mimic, never realizing the game is rigged against them. You were told your degree mattered, but true agency comes from mastering the unseen psychological forces. The system will never change for you. You must become the force that reshapes the system. Accessing these exclusive insights is the only way to climb past the level of the cold calculator. True mastery requires more than logic. It demands the strategic depth of a seasoned puppeteer. Transcending the level of a mere operator requires a vision that spans far beyond the immediate. This invitation is reserved for the elite tier who are ready to transcend the ordinary world. Stop observing the hierarchy and start positioning yourself at the very top of the food chain. You have spent your life following a script, but the door to power is finally unlocked. Every second you hesitate, the window for true sovereignty begins to close on your potential future. Are you truly 1 in 10 million or just another face in the crowded sleeper room? Take control of your evolution by integrating the wisdom of Machiavelli into your daily strategic decisions. Leave the dreams of the mimic behind and step into the absolute clarity of the architect. The path to the void is narrow, and only those with total agency can survive the climb. This is your final chance to secure the psychological tools needed to master the human hierarchy. I have shown you the ladder. Now it is up to you to begin the ascent. I will see you on the other side of the veil where true power finally resides.